CE to further clarify TV licence decision before LegCo vote. Social welfare payments to go up. And a shooting incident at Los Angeles International Airport. Good evening. A security agent was killed and several others wounded after a man opened fire at Los Angeles International Airport overnight. The suspect was arrested after a shootout with police, and there are reports his target was the agency which handles security at American airports. Passengers, crew and staff at one of America's busiest airports got the shock of their lives when a man with a semi-automatic rifle shot his way past a security checkpoint at Los Angeles International Airport. According to police, 23-year-old Paul Ciancia from New Jersey entered Terminal 3, pulled out his weapon and started shooting. He killed a federal security officer at a screening zone and wounded several others before airport police disabled him after a shootout. He was placed under arrest and taken to a hospital where he's been treated for his wounds. Officials praised the work of police and said it could have been a lot worse.
There were more than 100 more rounds that could have literally killed everybody in that terminal today. If it were not for their actions, there could have been a lot more damage.
The incident saw hundreds of flights grounded or diverted to other airports as LAX went into lockdown mode.
There were about 746 flights that were affected. 46 of those were diverted to other local airports. The rest were either held on the ground here at LAX or at their originating airport.
According to some officials, Ciancia's apparent target were the agents who handle security checks at all U.S. airports.
His body language was like, I'm getting it. That was his body language. I'm here to do something. Because he just grabbed the rifle like he knew how to grab a rifle.
There are unconfirmed reports he was carrying a note which detailed his anger against the Transportation Security Administration, the agency which is responsible for protecting America's transportation hubs.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry admitted that some surveillance by the National Security Agency went a bit too far. It's the first time a high-ranking Washington official acknowledged that Americans snooping abroad may have been overzealous. Meanwhile, NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden is asking for international help to persuade the U.S. to drop espionage charges against him. Alan Buckner reports.
Speaking via video link from Washington, Kerry told a conference in London that some U.S. spying may have been on autopilot.
Some of these actions have reached too far, and we are going to make sure that that does not happen in the future.
The State Department said Friday Kerry's remarks were in sync with what President Barack Obama has already said. The administration is conducting a review of surveillance practices, and Obama has said if some went too far, they'd be stopped. But Kerry did defend the spy program in principle.
We have actually prevented airplanes from going down, buildings from being blown up, and people from being assassinated because we've been able to learn ahead of time of the plans. I assure you, innocent people are not being abused in this process.
Meanwhile, former NSA contractor Edward Snowden, who remains in asylum in Russia, sent a letter to German politicians asking for international help in trying to get Washington to drop the espionage charges laid against him for leaking spy agency secrets. German Interior Minister Hans-Peter Friedrich said Snowden would also like to testify before the U.S. Congress about NSA activity. German lawmaker Hans-Christian Ströbele, who met with Snowden in Russia on Thursday, said Snowden would also consider seeking asylum in Germany, something the Interior Minister did not rule out. In Washington, the State Department did not respond directly to Snowden's appeal, except to say the U.S. position hasn't changed. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
The head of the Pakistani Taliban was killed by a U.S. drone strike, according to American and Pakistani officials. Haqmullah Masood, seen here on the right, is believed to be behind a failed car bombing in New York's Times Square in 2010, as well as brazen attacks inside Pakistan. He's on the FBI most wanted terrorist list with a $5 million reward for information leading to his capture. The drone attack in a tribal area in Pakistan also killed 4 others. Masood's death would be a major blow to the Pakistani Taliban. It comes just days after the Pakistani government announced it started peace talks with the Taliban militants. Japan and Russia have agreed to step up cooperation between their militaries amid regional security concerns. The meeting involving the 2 countries' foreign and defence ministers was the first high-level diplomatic and security talks between them. They agreed to hold joint military and anti-piracy exercises and establish a defence consultation framework. At a news conference afterwards, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said upgrading the defence ties could serve their national interests in resolving terrorism and North Korea's nuclear threats, as well as other regional disputes. The 2 countries also agreed to continue discussing a territorial dispute that's kept them from signing a peace treaty.
And in local news, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying has agreed to further clarify why the administration chose to deny Hong Kong television network a free-to-air TV license. This comes as the government tries to lobby pro-establishment lawmakers to vote against a bid to invoke special LegCo powers to force the government to explain its stance. Legislator Lam Tai-fai offered his 2 cents to the Chief Executive and the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development in the hour-long meeting this morning.
In view of the strong public reaction, government should understand if he cannot ease the doubt of the public to ease the suspicion of the public trust on the government. He must disclose more information about the assessment criteria and also explain the reason leading to the decision of not or disapproval the application of a Hong Kong TV.
According to Lam, the Chief Executive promised to further communicate with the public over the next few days, but he didn't say how. The legislator said he will look at what action the government takes before deciding whether or not to support an attempt to use special LegCo powers during next Wednesday's council meeting. The motion to invoke the LegCo Powers and Privileges Ordinance still needs the support of 4 more lawmakers from the functional constituencies for passage. The government is said to have shown relevant documents to pro-establishment lawmakers to try and persuade them to oppose the motion. This has sparked further outcry over the Executive Council using its confidentiality rule to keep quiet on why it denied 1 out of 3 applicants the free-to-air TV licence. But EXCO member and lawmaker Regina Ip said it may be more confusing for the public to only see some reports because it wouldn't show the big picture. Tam Yu-chung, chairman of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, will be voting against the motion. He said he would rather let the government decide on its own what information can be revealed to the public. Earlier, the government said it would release information in court after a Hong Kong citizen sought judicial review of the licence issue. That application has now been withdrawn. Charles Mok, the lawmaker tabling the motion, said the legislature is independent from the judicial system and lawmakers cannot give up their legislative responsibility by throwing the matter into a judge's hands.
We also think that the taking this case over to the judicial system actually potentially may hurt the EXCO system more than if it is just debated in the legislature.
Meanwhile, former HKTV staff have continued to camp out at the central government offices in protest against the EXCO decision not to grant them a TV licence.
Tropical cyclone Crosser will be closest to Hong Kong between tonight and tomorrow morning. The standby signal number 1 remains in force, but the observatory will consider issuing the strong wind signal number 3 if the weather worsens.
If we look at the latest track of Typhoon Crosser, is moving generally to the west over the northern part of the South China Sea. According to the present track, it will be located closest to Hong Kong later today or early tomorrow, at a distance of within the 300 kilometers of Hong Kong. From the satellite picture, we can see that the rain band associated with Crosser is affecting the southeastern coast of China. And from the radar picture, we can see that the rain band associated with Crosser is spreading towards Pearl River estuary.
Social welfare allowances will see across-the-board increases soon. Secretary for Labour and Welfare Matthew Cheung announced that the benefits will be raised by at least 3.4% from February next year. Sharda Silva reports.
The allowance hike, according to Cheung, will follow the Social Security Assistance Index of Prices, or SSAIP. The Comprehensive Social Security Assistance, or CSSA, the Old Age Allowance and the Disability Allowance will go up by at least 3.7%. The rent allowance ceiling under the CSSA will see the largest jump, with an increase of a minimum of 5.9%. Finally, the Old Age Living Allowance will go up by over 3.4%. Cheung explained that because the latest SSAIP data for the month of October hasn't become available yet, the exact increase figures could be higher when they're submitted to LegCo's Finance Committee next month. But Concerned Group member Li Tai-shing says the increase is not enough to ease the financial burden put on low-income groups by high rent, which has forced many to live in subdivided units. And he explains that currently a single person receives only $1,400 in CSSA rent allowance and has to pay on average $1,800 to $1,900 in rent. Earlier this year, the CSSA was raised by 5.2% as part of the annual review of social welfare schemes conducted in accordance with the Social Security Assistance Index of Prices. Sharda Silva, TVB News.
And still ahead in the news. Seizure of cold medicine that can be used to produce the drug ice. In Mexico, new taxes on sugary drinks and junk food to fight obesity. And a massive pink diamond to be auctioned off.